But yeah, let's go ahead and get into should the Chicago Bears sign Leonard Fournette. That has been a highly, debated topic by Bears fans. It seems like most Bears fans want him to be signed. I know me personally, I want him to be signed as well. But Leonard Fournette, he was released by the Jaguars yesterday at the time we're recording this podcast. And he was a number 4 overall pick, had a pretty good rookie year. He tore his ACL somewhere throughout so far, and then with John DeFilippo, our current quarterbacks coach, he actually had a big year last year, over 1,000 yards on a really bad Jacksonville Jaguars team that has a horrible offensive line as well. Obviously anyone should go look up the type of player he is just by his highlights. You can tell he's a quick guy. He's a hitter. He's got good vision. He's really instinctive, great runner, really. And we also have player and coach knowledge on him. Nick Foles obviously played with him just last year. I think he talked about him a little bit in an interview pretty recently. And then also John DeFilippo, as I said, offensive coordinator. So the type of player he is, if he is a locker room cancer, if he's not, we kind of have a good idea as to who he is. So Fournette would, if he joined this team, he would probably instantly become the best player on our offense, or at least the second best player. That's a little bit debatable. I tend to lean towards second best player after Allen Robinson. But right now, it looks like the Chicago Bears need to sign a running back, or at least in our opinion, they do. So Reese, what is your initial thoughts on the Chicago Bears signing Leonard Fournette?
My initial thought is, I think it's a good addition to the offense. I think what he delivers is a certain amount of power. I know that my one worry about him is that sometimes his average can be low. So something kind of that we witnessed with Jordan Howard kind of in his last year, where that average kind of continually went down, and he had that power, but seemingly sometimes couldn't really do much with it. That'd be my one and only concern. But someone that I think would definitely help along the goal line and punching the ball into the end zone, something that the Bears have struggled a lot with. So I think he helps the Bears in a lot of positions in need. And I think along with his 1,000 yards rushing last season, I think he also had like 500 some yards receiving. He had a decent amount. So someone that can, catch the ball in the backfield as well, which Montgomery was pretty good with. But, something that the Bears, for whatever reason, it seems like they love to try to get the running back incorporated in the passing game, but just can't always get it to click. Every now and then they'll hook up a good screen pass with Tariq Cohen, they'll go the distance, but consistently not really. So I think he can bring some intangibles, some of those traits that, fall in line with a lot of what the Bears, have needs at currently, especially in the absence of David Montgomery for the time being.
And, we talked extensively that even with David Montgomery currently on the roster, before he was injured, before any of that happened, we talked about the importance of adding a running back to this team. Yes, they have David Montgomery, but after that, they don't have a whole bunch of talent. Tariq Cohen, yes, he's a running back, but he's not, he can't be a backup. He can never take the full load of a game. He shouldn't be taking the full load of a game. We need to have another consistent and, in my opinion, proven talent for this team to be running behind. And that's just the truth of the matter. And, we could say, we want, the offensive line is bad. Yes, we should really focus on the offensive line. But at the end of the day, just having a good quality and good quantity of running backs with a lot of different variable skills can really help the run game. And ultimately, that's what is leading me to say, yeah, we really should sign Leonard Fournette. I know that we have concerns about his character with Jacksonville Jaguars, but guess what? There's been a plenty of players on Jacksonville Jaguars who have had character issues that could have been linked to just how the coaching staff was handling things. The consistent frustration, and now the Chicago Bears team doesn't have its own frustrations associated with it as well. But at the same time, we do have a lot better of a locker room. We do have a lot better coaching. And I think that it could really take Fournette to the next level. And, look at how Jalen Ramsey, once he got traded to the Rams, he stopped whining. There's plenty of players who, as soon as they have left this Jacksonville Jaguars team, they've been fine. They haven't been locker room cancers or anything. And even the initial reports out of training camp was that Leonard Fournette was looking a lot more motivated. Now, maybe he was just doing that to, save his butt. But at the end of the day, if he comes to the Chicago Bears and they claim him, that's a 1-year, $4 million contract. That man needs to perform this year.
Yeah, no, definitely. And, it's obvious that the Jacksonville Jaguars have a bad culture. they've had a lot of players with really high upside that they just seemingly can't, hold on to the team. So you kind of have to start looking at the organization itself when that becomes a pattern. And yeah, I'm sure Leonard Fournette will bring a decent amount of motivation. I mean, obviously he's going to be playing for a future contract wherever he goes. And, hopefully if he fits in with the Bears, it's a place that he likes. If he kind of breaks out and has a year that a lot of people weren't really expecting him to have and kind of finds this next level, then, maybe the Bears pick him up and they have their answer as a future running back or at least part of the group. One thing this really puts a lot of pressure on, though, was, that move by Nagy to call Patterson a running back. And we've been forgetting Patterson kind of through this whole discussion, talking about Null and Cohen and Pierce. But, man, what runs through my mind is this kind of puts a lot of pressure on Nagy's decision to call Patterson a running back, because if he doesn't go out and sign another running back and relies on Patterson to be one of the guys that fills in, steps up a lot, it puts a lot of pressure on that move, I think.
That's going to make Matt Nagy look like a joke if he does that. Patterson is not going to be able to handle the full amount of carries that a running back should be handling, in a start with the Chicago Bears, especially when David Montgomery is not there. He, at most, should be getting like 5 to 6 snaps a game at that position. He should really be in the screen game. He should be treated more like a Tariq Cohen. He's not right for that position. Like, that is not the player he is. He doesn't run with the pad level. He doesn't look like a running back. He's not built, from his legs up. Cordell Patterson, you can call him a running back. You can call him a tight end. You can call him a wide receiver. Call him all you want. He's the same type of player. You may be training him in the different types of plays to run than maybe the wide receivers, but he's the same player. It's not like he's going to make this switch to running back and instantly become a top-of-the-line running back. That's not how it really works in the NFL. You're looking at a guy who has, he played running back for a little bit in college, but for the most part, throughout his entire career, he's been a wide receiver. He is a better wide receiver. And it almost seems like we just put him in that position just to kind of keep a roster spot for him, trying to kind of validate his point on the roster. And, the Bears, they carry 4 running backs quite a bit. So you go ahead and add Fournette. Then this is your running back room. You got Fournette and Montgomery, who are able to take main workloads. And you have Cohen and Patterson, who are able to take kind of specialty plays. But at the end of the day, it's just, we don't need Ryan Nall or Artavis Pierce. We shouldn't want them to be our starter going into week 1. We shouldn't want them, and we don't have to have them there. That's what's going to kind of aggravate me if we don't go out and make this move. It's one thing, if some team claims him on the waiver wire that's ahead of us. I mean, that's out of our control. But if we let Leonard Fournette go and go into week 1 with Ryan Nall as our starter on this roster, or Artavis Pierce, an undrafted free agent who has never taken a snap in the NFL, that is a huge, huge indictment, not only on Matt Nagy, but on Ryan Pace.
Yeah, and we said this too. You texted me yesterday, hey, if it ends up being that the Bears passed on all these moves that they could have made this offseason, this isn't the first time we've called for the Bears to go out there and sign someone, or have at least said for them to consider it. I mean, we were talking about with Warford way back when, but of course he opted out, so that was kind of the point was moot. But, we've talked about, potentially bringing in Earl Thomas, and neither of us agreed with that, but it becomes, that Ryan Pace passed on all these people and they end up working out in different places and the Bears struggle at that position. Ryan Pace is going to have a lot of questions to answer, and Matt Nagy will too. There's just been a lot of opportunities for them to go out there, and they've been pretty stagnant. They've been quiet, and I do feel a lot better about this Bears roster, but, like you said, in a sense, you get the feeling that the Bears don't really want to go all out. They're being a bit reserved. They're trying to be competitive this season, but they're not really trying to make that huge push.
Absolutely. And I think that we can kind of, obviously wrap up the Leonard Fournette signing with, yeah, we want him, but we don't know or think necessarily that the Bears are going to go grab him. I really hope that we're wrong and that we could be inserting something right here saying that, oh my God, I can't believe the Bears went out and signed Leonard Fournette, because the waiver wire is about to end probably about an hour after we, close up this podcast. So we're going to see that very soon. I think that he will be claimed on the waiver wire. I mean, 1 year, $4 million contract for a player like Leonard Fournette, arguably one of the most talented running backs in the NFL. That's a home run. That's a home run deal. You can't have a better deal than that. So, yeah, I do think the Chicago Bears should sign Leonard Fournette if Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy are willing to do that. I don't necessarily think so. I have a really good feeling that we're not going to sign Leonard Fournette. I hope that I'm wrong. I hope that we can, cut up this little segment of me and say how wrong I was, right? But that doesn't seem like it's going to necessarily be the case.
Hey guys, like our video, subscribe, and check out our bi-weekly podcast on Apple Podcasts. Thanks.